Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, I'm about to review perhaps my most favorite fragrance of all time, Patou pour Homme by Jean Patou. Now, before I talk about the fragrance and get into the notes and such and why I like it, let me give you a little backstory. Patou pour Homme was launched in 1980, and it was created by Jean Carleo, who was the in-house perfumer at Jean Patou from the late 60s until the late 90s. From what I understand, Carleo wanted Patou pour Homme to be something really special, a fragrance that took a lot of hard work and masterful blending. And, if you ask me, I think he succeeded. The notes list for Patou pour Homme is an all-star cast. The top notes are hot pepper, lavender, tarragon, black pepper, bergamot, and galbanum. The middle notes are bourbon vetiver, cedar, patchouli, and clary sage. And the base notes are oak moss, Mysore sandalwood, and cistus labdanum. I would classify Patou pour Homme as an oriental chypre with fougere elements. This is because I smell a sheep in there. It has the sheep structure, citrus, labdanum, and oak moss. It has that in there and I can smell it. However, it also has very strong masculine oriental elements paired with lavender to give it a fougere kind of feel. Patou pour Homme is a very complex and well-blended fragrance, so let me just say what I'm able to smell. It opens up with the sheep smell, with a very spicy oriental feel on top. And the main notes that I can pick out are lavender, tarragon, and a petite grain note. It's kind of herbal, kind of spicy, kind of woody, all around great. There's also a big, oily tobacco and leather mixture to add to the masculinity and heaviness of it, and it works great. It is not an overbearing fragrance, it's not too powerful like many of its contemporaries. And despite the beautiful sheep structure and all the other elements that work so beautifully, perhaps my favorite phase is the base, where the laudanum becomes a lot richer and more noticeable with a chocolate-like kind of smell, as well as the castoreum, which has sort of a brown, smoky, leathery sort of smell. There are a lot of smells I could compare Patou pour Homme to, not one specific one, but a mixture of many different things, such as whiskey, tobacco. One conclusion that I came to not long ago was green coffee, because there is something in it that does remind me of coffee. The laudanum in it is sort of chocolatey. Uh, there's so many different facets and elements to this fragrance that it can't be described really with one word or one sentence. And that's why it's so good. There's so much stuff in it, but it is so eloquently well blended. And that's why Jean Carleo is probably my favorite perfumer, because of his ability to create and blend compositions that are infinitely satisfying and divine. In recent years, Patou pour Homme has become one of the most sought after, if not the most sought after men's fragrance out there. It goes for astronomical prices online when it is on eBay or other sites. And you'll see people all over the fragrance forums asking about it or pining just to get a little sample. It's not even on the perfume court anymore. That's how sought after it is. Patou pour Homme was around from 1980 to 2002. In 2001, Jean Patou Fragrances was purchased by Procter & Gamble, and that saw the demise of Patou pour Homme. I would think that it's mainly because of, one, it didn't really fit in with modern fragrances, and two, the materials were getting rarer and rarer, and I'm sure it violated a ton of allergy restrictions with what was in it. I think the packaging and marketing of Patou pour Homme were awesome. It really didn't have much marketing, but the packaging said a lot. It was rather simplistic with its walnut burl veneer finish and its tall, monolithic bottle similar to a Zara pour Homme. But that's just it. It's an elegant man that doesn't need to say much. There were two types of bottles of Patou pour Homme released. There was this bottle, this is a 3-ounce bottle. I don't know if there were smaller bottles like this, but this is a spray bottle. And then also, there were splash bottles released. This is a mini, but you get an idea. The splash bottles usually came in 2-ounce or 4-ounce sizes. They looked like this. I think why Patou Pour Homme is my favorite fragrance is because not only is it timeless and does it smell good, which is probably the most important thing, but it has elements of all the fragrances that I like. It has elements of classic leather fragrances. It has elements of classic sheep fragrances, and the sheep is probably my favorite category of fragrance. It has elements of aromatic fougères, which are great classic masculine fragrances. It has tobacco, it has orientals and spices in it, all kinds of great stuff. It's such a unique fragrance that's really hard to compare to something. The closest things I could compare it to would be the vintage Parfum de Toilette of Mitsuko by Guerlain from the 80s, or the original formulation of Bel Ami by Hermes in the vase bottle. Even though those come slightly close, they still really don't smell much like Patou Pour Homme. It really is that unique of a fragrance. And for me, it's probably the only one that always hits the spot. I can think of only a couple more fragrances that truly do always hit the spot for me every time, and those would be Capucci Pour Homme, Green Irish Tweed, Jubilation 25, maybe Prada Infusion to Iris. Seriously, those are the ones I can only think of. Maybe Yoji Homme. Patou Pour Homme is just that good, and it's that unique. Now, in the past year and a half, for a while, Patou Pour Homme was disappearing rapidly, and I fear the worst. I fear we would never find it again. And then, late in 2011, more bottles started to show up, and now there's more and more appearing on eBay, despite it being pretty high prices, around the $500 range. So, is it worth the astronomical prices? I don't know about that. If you could, I would definitely get a sample first and try it. I think it is worth it. It's a great fragrance, but it's not for everyone. And it definitely does not fit in with current trends or fashion sense. It's something that lives in a different time and a place, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's dated. So, is Patou Pour Homme the greatest fragrance ever? I don't know about that, but it's probably my favorite fragrance. Get yourself a sample if you can. I love this stuff, and I'm always going to have a bottle on hand.